Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online as well who's joining us. Today is our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is after our meditation, because we start each class with a meditation. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I do this is I start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation, and you're welcome to join along with the chants if you like. Over there on the cabinet, we have the laminated sheets, which is the chanting that I do. You can help yourself to get one at any point that you'd like to get one. For those of you guys that are online, this chanting sheet is on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books and then scroll down towards the bottom and you'll see the chanting sheet there. These chants that you're going to be looking at, it has the Pali words, which is what we're going to be chanting, and it has the English translations as well. If you see these English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. It's important to understand that where chanting came from is during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. That every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally so that they could remember his teachings and then actually practice his teachings. Because during his lifetime, they didn't have the ability to write things down. The technology to write things down was in China, but it hadn't made its way to that part of the world yet where the Buddha was. So they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony, or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. There isn't anything mystical and magical with chanting. Today, we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, it was purely as a way to remember the teachings. It was a learning device, essentially. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. And if you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha actually created these chants himself, because a Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these things to me out of respect for me. This would be the ego. This would be arrogance. And a person who's gotten to enlightenment wouldn't have that in their mind. So if you read these English translations, you're going to see that appreciation, gratitude, and respect. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings to this enlightened mental state where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, where you no longer experience this anger and sadness and frustration and any of those other discontent feelings like stress, anxiety, and guilt and shame and fear, if you learn from a teacher how to accomplish that mental state, you would have a lot of appreciation, gratitude for that person too, because the Buddha didn't want anything. He didn't expect anything. He was just sharing teachings that were helping people to be able to experience this enlightened mental state that he experienced. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to, but just understand this isn't a prayer. It's not a rite, a ritual, or ceremony, or anything like that. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance to help you guys in meditation, where I'm going to be instructing you in the meditation at the same time that we're meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating. Those of us here and anybody who's joining us online will just all be meditating. And I'm sure during that period of time that it's quiet, you'll hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by. You might hear a bird chirping or a dog barking. Someone might sneeze or cough or something like that. You can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. If you have a craving for permanent quietness, when you're meditating and you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. That's what's causing the mind these feelings, is that it's craving permanent silence. And now when you hear a sound during meditation, you're frustrated or annoyed. It's not other people that are causing these feelings. It's your own mind that's doing that. So if you understand that these sounds and the environment are impermanent, then you can be completely comfortable meditating and hearing any particular sound that may or may not occur. So it's impossible to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. There's going to be sounds. So as long as you don't have a craving for that, then you can be at ease and you can be peaceful and joyful. After that period of time where we're meditating, we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times in your journey to enlightenment because you need them as kind of like a tool belt, because you would employ them at different times for different reasons. But usually students are learning in the seated position. So I'll teach you guys a little bit about the seated position position to help you guys with this, to find a more comfortable position. And then at a later time, if you continue to learn, you can learn these other positions. So whatever I share with you about the seated position, it's important to understand that these are just suggestions. These are just things for you to consider, because there isn't just one fixed way for everybody to sit during meditation. Everybody's body is a little bit different. We're going to find different things to be comfortable. So you shouldn't take anything that I share in terms of your seating position as this is something you're required to do. These are just suggestions for you. Oftentimes people are either sitting on the floor or sitting in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this, you can sit however you're comfortable. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat a bit and make it more comfortable. And then if you're going to cross your legs, which again, you don't have to, but if you do decide to cross your legs, you would like to do that just lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. In terms of your hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. And if this is comfortable for you, you could use this. But some people find that they would prefer to put their palms on their thighs, which you could do that as well, or your palms on your knees, or your palms up. Or just rest your hands comfortably in your lap. Again, there isn't just one fixed way to do this. You can find whatever's comfortable for you. In fact, some people like to put their legs off the mat, which gets their hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and that allows the circulation to flow. So that's an option for you as well. For those of you guys that are in chairs, or maybe if you're at home on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair, you might decide to put your feet flat on the floor, or some people like to cross their ankles lightly at their ankles. But you can see me, I'm sitting in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. There's many different options here. And then the same thing with anyone in a chair, you can just place your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your body positioning for your upper body, you would like that to be erect. By having your sternum up and your shoulders back, this will help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during this meditation. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, this will help keep the mind attentive and alert so you can actively train the mind during your meditation. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on, and then I'll come back in with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno สคาโตโรกาวิตูอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath. Either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. As I was mentioning, today is our Pali Canon in English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is here in a moment. First, let me just describe a few things for you. What the Buddha did during his lifetime is he figured out how to get to this mental state of enlightenment. What enlightenment is a mental state that you're experiencing where all you experience is peace, calm, serenity, and contentedness with joy. The mind has been trained to the point where it no longer experiences any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others can be eliminated from your mind. There are certain things within your own mind that's causing these feelings. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by something external. You might think your parents are upsetting you or making you angry, or your boss is frustrating you, or your coworkers are annoying you, or your neighbors somehow are affecting you, right? This isn't actually true. What you can understand from the teachings of the Buddha in a way that you can independently verify is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And because of that, you can actually solve it. You can actually eliminate these discontent feelings. So the Buddha figured out how to do that through purification of his mind, through training of his mind. Meditation is one thing that you need in order to train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state, but it's not the only thing. There's other things that you would need to know as well besides just meditation. So you wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment. This is one of the big myths about the life story of the Buddha. People think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment. And this just isn't actually true. If you study his original teachings, you can see that that's not what he shared at all. And if you can look at your own life, you can see anything you've ever done has been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Whether it's learning how to read, write, and speak a certain language like English, it's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. If there's some job or occupation that you have, you didn't just become a master at it instantly. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You maybe still are learning English, right? You may be still learning a certain job or occupation. You haven't learned it all yet, right? It's gradual training. So getting to enlightenment is to become a better and better person. You're purifying your mind of the unwholesome qualities that are hindering you from experiencing the peace and the joy that is the enlightened mind. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind will be cheerful. It'll be bright. It'll be glad. It'll be uplifted. It'll be radiant. You won't be dull and lethargic and angry and resentful and frustrated any longer. You'll notice that the mind is having focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory because you've eradicated the pollutions of the mind. So the mind is now performing optimally, where there's focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer. Your relationships are at ease because you're being loving and kind and warm and gentle. Sometimes we think that when there's a difficult situation in a relationship, that it's the other people that need to change. This is typically what we think because the ego in the unenlightened mind thinks that I'm doing everything perfectly and it's everyone else who is the problem, right? Instead, what you come to understand is it's your own mind that's causing the difficulties and struggles that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. And it's through the cultivation of wisdom that you can eradicate these pollutions of the mind. You can get to a point where you're not even experiencing a bad mood any longer, that the causes and conditions that are producing the bad mood have been eliminated and eradicated from the mind. So that comes through training of the mind, and there's certain wisdom that you need in order to help you to be able to accomplish that. So here we have multiple programs that you can attend here at the temple, or you can attend online because we live stream everything, and you can come in through Zoom, through YouTube, through Facebook. So if you'd like to learn how to get to this enlightened mental state, there's help for you here to be able to do that. And it's all available at no cost. All the books are available, the videos, the podcasts, audio books, there's classes, courses, retreats, there's personal guidance. All of this is available for you at no cost. So if you would like to get started on this path, there's various programs that you might consider. The group learning program is a place where a lot of people will start. In this group learning program, what we do is we take this first book of our book series. This is called Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. And each Sunday we go chapter by chapter in this book, helping you guys to understand the foundational teachings that it takes to get to enlightenment. And we happen to be restarting this. Essentially tomorrow is our unofficial restart, tomorrow at 9 a.m. here at the temple, or 9 p.m. I also teach from home and live stream it throughout the world so that different people in different time zones can get access to it. And if you can't attend live, it's recorded, so you can attend through our YouTube channel. You can watch it either live or you can watch the recording. Same thing with Facebook and our podcast. You can watch the recording there as well. And slowly but surely, over a 7-month period, you can gradually learn each Sunday and Wednesday how to gradually move your mind to this enlightened mental state. So if you'd like to attend that, you're welcome to attend here or online, where you can learn all the foundational teachings that it takes to move your mind to this enlightened mental state. And this book you can actually acquire for free. You can download it at our website for free. You can take it and go print it on your own. If you'd like printed versions, we have them here. You just need to reimburse us for our printing costs so that we can buy more for other people. And then you can also get it on Amazon. If your country has access to Amazon, you can order it on there as well. So we gradually walk through that in our group learning program. And then we have various courses and retreats that we teach throughout the month, throughout the year. And then there's this program, the Pali Canon and English Study Group. What we do in this program is we study volumes 2 through 13 of the book series. 2 through 13 is the remaining part of the book series where it really focuses on the original words of the Buddha. And in this particular program, it takes 1.5 years to go through all the various books. And we do it a bit different. Where in all these other programs and courses, we do a traditional style of learning where I'll be teaching for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I open up for questions, and then teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes and open up for questions. What we do in the Pali Canon and English study group, because students already have a foundation or a framework in the teachings, is we do it as a study group rather than me just teaching for 15, 20, 30 minutes. What I do is I invite students here at the temple and anybody who's joining in Zoom to be able to read a chapter from the book. In this particular chapter, you can see it's 1 and a little bit, right? That's kind of like the words of the Buddha on this particular chapter. After a student reads the chapter, then I will share some teachings on that to help you guys. The Buddha teaches very clear, very concise, and very precise, but it helps to have a dedicated practitioner and teacher to kind of guide you through, because some of these teachings are connected to other teachings, and if you don't know what those teachings are, it can be challenging for you to understand, particularly here, because we're in volume 10 of the book series. We've been at this for a while, where we started this back last year sometime, I think, or maybe I can't even remember. I think it was maybe January this year or sometime last year that we started this particular program. I think it was July actually last year that we restarted this program. So it helps to have a dedicated teacher to be able to help you through understanding. But you'll see the Buddha teaches very clear and very precise, but his teachings are oftentimes connected to other teachings that you may or may not be aware of. So after a student reads, after I share some teachings on that particular chapter to help you, then I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to that chapter. So if you would like to read and you're here at the temple, all you need to do is get a microphone here in the white bowl. If you pick up a microphone, you press the gray button, the lights will come on, you hold that up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And you can keep these microphones with you because you might have a question, or someone around you might have a question, and you might need to use it more than one time, so you can just keep it with you and share it with the people around you. And when you're done with it, if you could just turn it off, that way we won't get feedback through the speakers, and it'll help keep the audio nice and clean. If you're in Zoom and you would like to volunteer to read, you can electronically raise your hand inside Zoom, and I'll be able to see that, and you can unmute your microphone, and then you'll be able to read, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple. They'll be able to hear you online as well. And when we get to the question period, anybody who's in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions by putting that into the comment section, or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, and then you can ask any and all questions that you like that way as well. And for those of you guys here, if you could use the microphones for the questions, that would be great, because then the people online will be able to hear you. So is there anybody who would like to volunteer to read this first chapter that we're studying today? This is chapter 21 in volume 10. Yeah, Pat, go ahead.
The suitable way for attaining Nibbana, enlightenment, third discourse. Monks, I will teach you the way that is suitable for attaining Nibbana. Listen to that and attend closely. I will speak. And what, monks, is the way that is suitable for attaining Nibbana? Here, a monk sees the I as non-self. He sees forms as non-self. He sees eye consciousness as non-self. He sees eye contact as non-self. He sees as non-self whatever feeling arises with eye contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. He sees the ear as non-self. He sees sounds as non-self. He sees ear consciousness as non-self. He sees ear contact as non-self. He sees as non-self whatever feeling arises with ear contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. He sees the nose as non-self. He sees odors as non-self. He sees nose consciousness as non-self. He sees nose contact as non-self. He sees as non-self whatever feeling arises with nose contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. He sees the tongue as non-self. He sees flavors as non-self. He sees tongue consciousness as non-self. He sees tongue contact as non-self. He sees as non-self whatever feeling arises with tongue contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. He sees the body as non-self. He sees physical objects as non-self. He sees body consciousness as non-self. He sees body contact as non-self. He sees as non-self whatever feeling arises with body contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. He sees the mind as non-self. He sees mental objects as non-self. He sees mind consciousness as non-self. He sees mind contact as non-self. He sees as non-self whatever feeling arises with mind contact as conditioned, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. This, monks, is the way that is suitable for attaining Nibbana, enlightenment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. So this is a little bit of a challenging teaching to come in on if this is like the first time you've studied the words of the Buddha. This isn't where somebody would typically start, right? This is volume 10, chapter 21, right? So this isn't where someone would normally start their journey to enlightenment. So if this is your first time ever studying the words of the Buddha, understand that this isn't typically where someone starts, but it's okay. I'll kind of help you along to help you understand what the Buddha is actually teaching you here. So everything in the teachings of the Buddha is based on you cultivating wisdom. There are no beliefs in the teachings of the Buddha. He's helping you to understand true reality and how the world truly functions. Because when you're experiencing stress or anxiety or guilt or shame or fear or anything like this, it's because the mind's lacking certain wisdom about the natural laws and the way that the world's currently functioning. To live in a world that you don't understand, it's a real struggle. It's really difficult. That's what the stress and the anxiety and the anger and the frustration and all those other discontent feelings are. It's showing you that there's certain things about this world that you don't understand. There's a certain lack of wisdom that the mind's having in that situation. So the Buddha invites you to come and examine his teachings, investigate his teachings. And by investigating his teachings, you'll be able to independently verify them and practice them to be able to see how this world truly functions. And now with the wisdom of these natural laws, you will navigate the world more harmoniously. It's just like when we didn't know the natural law of gravity, we struggled and we had difficulties. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of that natural law and we started functioning with ease with that natural law of gravity. We never believed in the natural law of gravity. We could see the truth for ourselves. You can see it. Right? You know that's actually true. There's an actual natural law of gravity. And we learned about it. And by the time we were 10, 12, 14 years old, we had fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. You could say that we've cultivated wisdom about this natural law. And now we tie our shoes, we can climb ladders, we can ride bicycles because we fully awoke. We have wisdom of this natural law and we no longer struggle with it. Right? Well, there's these other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And the Buddha is helping you to be able to see what those natural laws are. And you can't believe in these natural laws because if you believe in them, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it or you convince yourself to believe it. So on this journey to enlightenment, you're not a follower. You're not a devotee. You are an independent practitioner looking for guidance to be able to discover the truth about the world and cultivate wisdom. A teacher is essentially like a tour guide pointing out for you the things that you need to learn in order to be able to awaken the mind to this wisdom of these natural laws. And the Buddha starts you off with his teachings with something that's called the three universal truths. It's that everything in the world around you is constantly changing. This is called impermanence. That's the first universal truth, that things are constantly changing. And where this is really important for you to have as wisdom and be able to independently verify is that your mind craves permanence. This is what's causing the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all those other discontent feelings. Is your mind is having this wants and these expectations, this craving for permanence, wanting things to be a certain way. And if you get things your way, you experience pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if you don't get things your way, you get the painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, because the mind's not getting what it wants. The mind craves permanently agreeable things. It wants things to be permanently comfortable. But you can't experience that because you don't live in a permanent world. You live in an impermanent world. So the first universal truth, the Buddha is helping you see that everything around you is constantly changing. Anything you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body or anything that goes through the mind, any thoughts or ideas, these are all impermanent, meaning they are temporary. They arise, they change, and they fade away. These are called conditioned objects. That's the first universal truth. And you need to be able to independently verify that. Don't believe me. You need to look around the world and you need to see, is it what you see impermanent, right? Is the weather impermanent, right? We have some rain right now. It's raining now, but it's not going to be raining forever, right? It's going to be sunny at some point. And then the sun is not permanent either. It's going to be raining at some point. In some places it snows and sleets and all these other things. So the weather is constantly changing. Your relationships are constantly changing. Your bank account is constantly changing. Everything in your life is constantly changing. But your mind craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent. And that's why when you broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, you struggled during that period of time because you were craving for that relationship to be permanent. And when you experienced this impermanence, this change, the mind didn't understand that because it didn't have the wisdom of the universal truth of impermanence. So the first universal truth is called impermanence. The second one is called discontentedness. The Buddha explains to you how the unenlightened mind experiences pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant feelings. This is the mind essentially going up and down, up and down, up and down. You experience peacefulness and calm here and there, but it's only a matter of time before something triggers one of your cravings, desires, attachments, and you become discontent. You'll either be happy and excited or elated, or you'll be sad or frustrated or angry, or you'll be bored and lonely and shy or embarrassed or something. It's only a matter of time before there's some kind of displeasure in the mind. So this is the second universal truth, is that all unenlightened minds will experience these conditioned feelings. Based on some condition, you're going to experience happiness, excitement, pleasant feelings, or you're going to get painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, or you're going to get neither painful nor pleasant feelings. That condition is craving, desire, attachment within your own mind. So now, if you're craving it to be sunny and it's sunny outside, you'll be so happy and excited. But if you crave the sun and it's raining, you'll be frustrated or annoyed or agitated. And this is where you can see that it's not other people who are causing you to be frustrated or angry, because there's not even anyone else involved in this situation, right? If your bank account balance is up here and you get so happy and excited, and then it goes down here and you're frustrated or angry, once again, you can see it's not other people causing you to be angry because nobody else is even involved. It was just change. The mind doesn't like change in the unenlightened state. So the same way of saying the mind craves permanence is to say that it does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change, right? So the mind is going to experience discontentedness based on its cravings, desires, attachments. It's forming inner feelings based on this condition of craving and yearning and longing and wanting and expecting things. If people do things the way you expect, you'll be happy. You'll get pleasant feelings. If people don't do things the way you expect, then you'll have painful feelings. And you might even hate this person. You might even dislike them because they're not doing things the way you want them to do it, right? But not everybody's going to do things the same way as you. That would be a permanent world. We don't live in that permanent world. So this second universal truth is the universal truth of discontentedness, helping you to see that the unenlightened mind experiences these conditioned feelings of pleasant, painful, and neither painful nor pleasant. That was what the first and the second discourse was helping you to see. Here, this third discourse is helping you to understand a little bit about the universal truth of non-self. What the universal truth of non-self is it's helping you to be able to understand that this body nor this mind is you. It's not who you are as a person. Now, I know that might sound a little bit strange to you at this point, but the more you peer into this, you can see that this is true. What the mind does in the unenlightened state, because of its pollutions, is it will cling to a self-image, it'll cling to a self-identity, and think that this is who you are. So it'll cling to how you appear or certain identity that's in your mind. And now, if things are happening in an agreeable way, you'll be happy, you'll be excited. But if there's something disagreeable that is occurring, now you'll feel angry, sad, frustrated, embarrassed, or any other feeling that might arise. So, for example, if you've ever looked in the mirror and you saw a wrinkle or a mole or a pimple or a gray hair or you started losing your hair, or you got a little bit of fat here and there, or maybe you spilled something on your clothing and you got embarrassed, that's because the personal existence view. The mind hasn't realized non-self. It still thinks that this body is you, and it wants to be perceived by others in a certain way. And if you're being perceived by others in a certain way, you feel happy and excited. But if they don't perceive you the way you want them to perceive you, then you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed or embarrassed or some other feeling. This is because of the mind's personal existence view. If you've ever looked in the mirror, like maybe you put on some clothes and you're like, nah, that's not how I want to look today. And you went and changed your clothes and you put them on. You're like, that's not how I want to look today. Maybe you were thinking about the people you're going to see and you're trying to impress them and you want to look a certain way. And you kind of change clothes multiple times in order to get exactly that certain look that you want before you leave out of the house. That's your personal existence view. Or maybe you were like me when I was a kid. I used to get the gel and the mousse and I'd put it in my hair before going to school, and I would try to get every little hair in exactly the right spot. And sometimes I would even miss the bus when I was on my way to school because I was doing this for so long, right? So maybe you were doing those kinds of things. That's your personal existence view. That's you clinging to this body, wanting to be perceived by others. And what the Buddha teaches you is this body is not you, right? But then there's also the mind itself. There's this self-identity that the mind might be clinging to, based on your culture, your ethnicity, maybe your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, any number of things. Your mind can cling to this, like I am Chinese, or I am American, or I am Canadian, or I am Israeli, or I am Lithuanian. Any of this I am. And it doesn't have to just be about your nationality. It can be any number of things. One time a student called me up and contacted me and he said, hey, David, I'm having a terrible time ever since COVID. I was like, really? What's going on? I can probably help you with that. And he said, I'm going into all these different stores and they're having cashless payments and places I used to go to all the time before COVID, but now instead of taking my cash, they want me to use the computer system and do contactless payment. And when they turn around the computer screen, it asks me for a tip. And these are places that I go in, maybe I order a cup of coffee or something. I spend 30 seconds ordering and they want a 20, 25, 30% tip. And I don't feel like I need to tip. And I'm a great tipper, David. I'm a really great tipper. But in these situations, I feel so conflicted and I am so uncomfortable. What is going on here? I am such a great tipper. And I was like, this is your personal existence view. Your mind has the identity of I am a great tipper. And when you tip, you feel great. But when you don't tip, because he's choosing not to tip, he didn't feel comfortable in those situations, right? So the mind can cling to any number of things as your identity of who you think you are. Like, I am kind, I am friendly. So now when somebody says to you, you're the rudest person I've ever met, now you're frustrated or angry or irritated, right? So the Buddha is teaching you that none of these things are you. This isn't who you are as a person. But as long as you cling to it, you can't get to peacefulness and joy. Because in certain situations, people are going to say things that you agree with. In other situations, they're going to say things that you disagree with because of impermanence, right? So if you think that I am American or I am Chinese and you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, they're talking very fondly about your nationality and that's the identity you've adopted, you'll feel really excited. Wow, they're talking about me. They said Chinese people are so friendly or Americans are so kind and loving and warm, right? Wow, they're talking about me. But now 2 tables over, they're going to say something degrading and disparaging about this nationality. And if you identify with that as who you are, you'll be frustrated. You'll be angry. You might even be ready to fight, right? It's going to produce all kinds of unskillful conduct. But you can't get to peacefulness as long as your mind adopts that identity. So what the Buddha is teaching you here is that none of these things are you. He's going through what's called the 6 sense bases: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. And he's saying none of these things are you. right? Because what the mind's going to do is it's going to try to grab onto this stuff, thinking that this is who you are. Because what these 6 sense bases are, is they are the doorways to discontentedness. Anytime you experience discontentedness in your life, it's because you've had contact through these doorways, and it's triggered a craving in your mind. And now you either experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant feelings. So if you see something that you agree with, like maybe a child's walking down the street holding their parents' hands, and you're like, that's so lovely. Look at that. The little kid's holding their parents' hand. Oh, that's so sweet. And you get all these pleasant feelings because you're seeing something you agree with. But now you turn the corner and you see a parent slap their child across the face. Oh my goodness. Now you might be angry or frustrated because you're seeing something that you disagree with. And you might try to adopt this right here where the Buddha is talking about these feelings. He sees as what non-self, whatever feeling arises as eye contact, whether pleasant, painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. You might say, I am angry, or I am frustrated. Well, I am not frustrated. I am not angry. What's truly happening in your life in that moment is your mind is experiencing anger. There is no I. This I that the mind wants to grab onto, it doesn't exist. There is a body, there is a mind, and it has come together for this existence. But as long as your mind clings to this as who you are, you will cause your mind to experience the anger and frustration. So you need to get to the point where you don't identify with any of these things as who you are as a person, right? So certain sounds, right? Let's go through certain sounds. Somebody says, wow, you're so loving and kind and warm and gentle. If you grab onto that and you welcome that into your mind, you're going to feel so excited. But now it's only a matter of time before somebody says something the opposite of that, something degrading and disparaging. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do is to not see those sounds as who you are as a person. Disassociate with that. Don't cling to it and hold on to it as who you are. Because if you allow your mind to get those pleasant feelings when somebody's complimentary, well, then when somebody's degrading you or degrading this being, you will be frustrated or irritated or annoyed. This is the real secret, even though there's no secret on the path to enlightenment. The real focal point is those conditioned pleasant feelings that you get. You need to be willing to let go of that temporary happiness in order to get to the permanent happiness, the permanent joy. Because if you allow your mind to get temporarily happy when you hear something favorable or agreeable, that condition is not permanent. And when that changes, that means your mind is not going to be happy anymore. It's going to move to sadness, anger, and frustration. So what's happening is the mind is forming a feeling based on something external. And that external thing is not permanent. So as long as you allow your mind to get these temporary happy feelings, that thing is not permanent. So therefore the mind's going to shift and it's going to start experiencing painful feelings. So none of these things that the Buddha is describing here is you. He's talking about the ear itself, the sounds that the ear hears. None of that is you. He's saying ear consciousness. What ear consciousness is this is when your mind becomes aware of what has been experienced. So there's the I, there's the physical form, then there's the mind becoming aware of it. That's the I consciousness. There's the ear, then there's the sound, then there's the mind becoming aware of that. That's called ear consciousness. And then he refers to that as ear contact. Those three things, the ear, the sound, and then the mind becoming aware of it, he calls that contact. Ear contact. So now the mind has been contacted. And now if the mind's been contacted and it has a craving, that's when the conditioned feelings will be experienced. Because he says, whatever feeling arises with ear contact as condition, whether pleasant, painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, he's saying none of that is you. That's not who you are. So he's teaching you this so you can let it go. Because if you keep clinging to this stuff, then you're going to be frustrated. So if somebody says to me, all Americans are angry and frustrated and irritated and they're so egotistical and all this kind of stuff, that's not me. That's not who I am. I'm not an American, right? This body was born on a land that's referred to as the USA or America, but the mind no longer has that identity of I am an American, right? So you can understand this body was born on a certain land, but your mind doesn't have to adopt the identity of that's who you are, right? So if somebody says something unfavorable, they're not talking about me, so you don't even get upset. You don't even get frustrated. But also, if they say something agreeable, say that they say something like very pleasant, very complimentary, you don't get pleasant feelings by that either. You might say, oh, thank you so much. You might just be kind in conversation. Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate your thoughtfulness or whatever. But your mind can remain completely calm and peaceful. You don't get so excited because they're not talking about me. So if people say all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle, which I've never heard that before, but maybe somebody might say that someday. And if you hear that, it's not unaffected by that, right? You can be unaffected by the complementary things as well, right? So that's what the Buddha is teaching you here. And he teaches you in other places to be unaffected by this contact that you're experiencing. And it doesn't mean that you're numb or you're devoid of any kind of interesting mental states or anything like that. It just means that you're unaffected by it, that your mind's not going up and down based on the things that you see, hear, smell, flavors that touch your tongue, things that come in contact with the body or anything that goes through the mind. It's not that you're devoid of anything. It just means that your mind is unaffected, that you can maintain your peace and your joy regardless of what contact is coming through these sense bases. So do you guys have any questions on this particular chapter? For those of you guys online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions. And then if you guys here could use the mics, that would be great. So any questions on this one? Yes, sir. Yeah, if you could get a microphone. And you can take it with you because you might have more than one question or someone around you might have a question. Yep. There, it's on now. There we go.
So my question is, so what's the difference between feeling unaffected and I just don't care, right? I feel like a lack of empathy would be the result of this kind of state. Care about this, I don't care about that. Then how do we build a connection between ourselves and other human beings if we're affected?
Sure. So first, let's talk about what empathy is. Different people teach empathy in different ways. So what he asked was, he said, what's the difference between being unaffected by something and then just not caring? Because, shouldn't we have empathy essentially? Because, if you're not affected, it might appear as if you don't care, and then it looks like you don't have empathy, right? That's kind of your question, right? Yeah. Okay. So first, let's talk about empathy. Different people teach different things about empathy. What empathy is where you understand people's feelings. That's what empathy is, that you understand other people's feelings. That's empathy. What people oftentimes teach empathy as, which I don't recommend you think of empathy in this way, is that you understand people's feelings and you share in their feelings. If that's what you think of as empathy, you'll never get to enlightenment that way if you're practicing that. That's like somebody stuck in the quicksand and I'm going to jump down into the quicksand with them. So mom's feeling sad and angry, so I'm going to be sad and angry too. I understand her feelings and I'm going to share in her feelings. Or boss is angry about something, I'm going to be angry too, right? This is not empathy. That is craving, desire, attachment. That is you're forming your feelings based on this external thing. And if you continue to do that, you'll never get to peace and joy because someone else around you is angry and frustrated. You'll be angry and frustrated. That's not care, right? That's not empathy. That's the mind having craving. That's the mind being attached to other people. And whatever other people feel, I'm going to feel that thing too. And sometimes people think that's honorable, but it's not. It's your mind being bound up with other people and being affected by what other people experience. So if somebody's in the quicksand, you don't jump down into the quicksand with them in order to help them get out. Instead, you stand on stable ground and you reach out a hand and you say, hey, grab my hand. You look them in the eyes. You're like, hey, grab my hand. You're going to need to kick. I'm going to pull, and we're going to get you out of here. You kick, I'm going to pull, right? You stay on stable ground. So that's what you would like to do whenever people are angry or frustrated or sad or lonely. You stand on stable ground. You keep your mind stable. That's what you can practice that is going to maintain your peace and joy. The empathy is that you understand this person's feelings. You understand they've lost their relative. Somebody passed away. They're sad. They're grieving. You understand. Right? They lost their job. You understand. And understanding their feelings is to understand craving, desire, attachment. The reason why someone might grieve with a parent's death is because they're craving permanence. They're craving their parent to be permanent when in fact they're impermanent. Understanding that they're sad because they lost their job is to understand that they're craving permanence. They're craving this job to be permanent when in reality it is impermanent, right? So you can understand people's feelings through the Four Noble Truths without actually experiencing that same feeling yourself. You don't have to experience that same feeling in order to understand their feelings. So oftentimes people associate when someone else is sad or angry, if you're sad and angry too, along with them, that shows that you care about them. People are associating these discontent feelings as care. So if you went to a funeral and you were crying and you were grieving, people would be like, oh, he really loved mom so much. That's why he's grieving. That's why he's so sad, or something like that. That's not what's causing that. The care and the love is not what's causing the grief. This is a misunderstanding that people have in the world. What's causing the grief is the attachment. It's the craving. It's wanting mom to be permanent. And now that she's passed away, the mind wants her to be permanent. It's not getting what it wants. So therefore, it's grieving. Right? So you don't have to experience grief. So it's not the love or the care that's causing the grief and the sadness. It's the mind's craving, desire, attachment. So being unaffected by these external things doesn't mean that you don't care, because you can have care, but you're just not emotional about it because your mind's not shaken up because you understand impermanence. So for example, when my mom died in 2017, I didn't grieve at all. There was no sorrow. There was no sadness at all because my mind wasn't attached to her. I had already trained my mind to let go mentally. I loved my mom. I cared for my mom. I had concern for her. I did many things to help her. But, ultimately she's impermanent and she needed to die just like all the rest of us. So when somebody dies, the thing that's causing that grief or the sorrow is the attachment. But you can get to a point where you don't have an attachment. You don't have a craving. You maintain your care and your concern, and your mind is unaffected. So you need to be able to see that emotions doesn't mean that you care. And a lack of that doesn't mean that you don't care either. It just means that your mind's not attached in that situation, right? So if I saw somebody outside get hit by a car, right, I wouldn't be sad or upset when I see that. But I would have care and concern, and I would go over and see if I could render first aid to be able to help that person. If I'm able to do that, I would be able to do that. But I would do it from a place of stability in my mind and care and concern, rather than, oh my goodness, somebody got hit by a car. What are we going to do? Oh my gosh. And your mind's all over the place. And now you can't make wise decisions to help this person. But if you can maintain your calmness and composure, now your care and concern can actually shine through, and you can make wise decisions to truly help this person. You see the difference? Yeah. And that comes with training, right? Because just talking about it in a class like this is one thing, but then being able to actually do it is a whole nother thing. And that's where the training. There's a core central teaching that the Buddha teaches called the Eightfold Path this is what you really need to learn in order to get your mind really well trained. And this is what I'm going to be teaching in this group learning program. The very first few classes are all about the Eightfold Path. I'm going to walk students through helping them to understand. And I teach this multiple times. It's been recorded multiple times. That's really where you start on the path to enlightenment. Any other questions here or online? No questions? Okay, I'm just going to check here on Facebook. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. So, all right, let's go to the next chapter. This is the suitable way for attaining Nibbana, the fourth discourse. Would someone like to read this one? Yes, sir. You're going to get all three of those universal truths here in this particular discourse.
Okay, so the suitable way for attaining Nibbana, enlightenment, fourth discourse. Monks, I will teach you the way that is suitable for attaining Nibbana, enlightenment. Listen to that and attend closely. I will speak. What do you think, monks? Is the I permanent or impermanent? Impermanent? Venerable sir, is what is impermanent discontentness or contentness? Discontentness, venerable sir, is what is impermanent discontentness and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus. This is mine. This I am. This is myself. No, venerable sir. Are forms permanent or impermanent? Is I consciousness permanent or impermanent? Is eye contact permanent or impermanent? Is any feeling that arises with eye contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, vulnerable sir. Is the ear permanent or impermanent? Is the nose permanent or impermanent? Is the tongue permanent or impermanent? Is the body permanent or impermanent? Is the mind permanent or impermanent? Is any feeling that arises with ear contact, nose contact, or tongue contact, body contact, mind contact as condition permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, vulnerable sir. Is what is impermanent discontentness or contentness? Discontentness, vulnerable sir. Is what is impermanent discontentness and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus. This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, venerable sir. Seeing thus, monks, the instructed noble disciple experiences a fading away of strong feeling towards the eye, towards forms, a fading away of strong feelings towards eye consciousness, a fading away of strong feelings towards eye contact, a fading away of strong feelings towards whatever feeling arises with eye contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. All the below were restated as above. He experiences a fading away of strong feelings towards the ears, towards the nose, towards the tongue, towards the body, towards the mind, towards whatever feeling arises with mind contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. Experiencing a fading away of strong feelings, he becomes free from strong feelings. Though freedom from strong feelings, his mind is liberated. When is it liberated? There comes the knowledge. It's liberated. He understands, destroyed its birth. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of existence. This, monks, is the way that is suitable for attaining Nibbana, enlightenment.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, so here the Buddha is just walking through the three universal truths of impermanence, discontentedness, and non-self. Because what he's saying is this is what you need to know in order to be able to get to enlightenment, among other things, right? That's why this is titled the suitable way for attaining enlightenment. What he's saying is this is the suitable way for attaining peacefulness and joy, right? If you're interested in getting that peace and joy, you're going to need to know these basic teachings about the world around you. And that's where you essentially start off, not here, but you start off understanding those. And that's what I'll be doing once we get into June. I'm going to be teaching students those types of teachings. There's a Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course the very first week of June, which is a 5-day course where I'm going to be walking students through that in a way that they can really understand it through a traditional style of learning. But here, he's just walking you through. You can see that the Buddha is not trying to convince you to believe in anything. He's asking you questions. He's asking his students questions in order to get them to think, right? So that they can see true reality. So he's saying, is the I permanent or impermanent? He's just asking them a question. It's impermanent, right? You can look around the world and you can verify that for yourself. He already knew that, but he's asking that question because the mind tends to think otherwise. People want eternal life, right? People are looking for the fountain of youth, right? They're never going to find it. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be sickness, aging, and death. Right? This is impermanence. You're not going to ever experience permanent life. It's just not possible because of whatever arises, it's going to change and it's going to fade away. It's impermanent. So it's important to be able to see that about the world around you. Anybody who's trying to discover the fountain of youth and having a permanent life, they're never going to be able to find that because it's not part of the natural laws. You can see everything around you is constantly changing. He talks about discontentedness. He's asking this question, is what is impermanent discontentedness or contentedness? Because what the mind's going to do is it's going to crave for things to be permanent. And then when it experiences impermanence, it experiences discontentedness. That's what he's basically saying. And then all of these impermanent things in that is producing discontentedness, he's saying, is this regarded as this is mine, this I am, this is myself? No, none of this stuff is you. This car that you own, that house that you have, that job that you have, those clothes that you have, none of that is you. It's not who you are. But the mind's going to grab onto this as who you are. I am a business owner. I am an entrepreneur. I am a student. I am a daughter. I am a son. I am a mother. I am a father. I am a boyfriend. I'm a girlfriend. All of this I am. You need to get to the point where you shed all of that and you don't adopt these labels as who you are because you'll really struggle. Like, for example, the I am a boyfriend, I'm a girlfriend. If you've ever been in a relationship and you identified that way, when you guys broke up, you might have really struggled during that time frame, wanting to hurry up and get right back into another relationship because your mind didn't identify with I am single. Your mind identified with I am a husband, I'm a wife, I'm a boyfriend, I'm a girlfriend. Or say you were in a job and you identified with I am a police officer. When you retire or you get injured or something like this, you might really struggle during that time frame because your mind doesn't identify with I am a taxi driver, right? Or I am an electrician. Your mind wants to be a police officer, but you need to understand all these things are impermanent and they're constantly changing, and grabbing onto them as who you are is just going to lead to discontentedness. So the Buddha is walking through all of that here. So any questions here on any of this stuff? By the way, this is the Buddha talking a little bit about what's occurring in the mind. As you're getting closer and closer to enlightenment, you're going to notice this experiencing of the fading away of strong feelings. Where when you get angry and frustrated, you have all these really strong feelings of stress and anxiety. As you're training in the teachings, you're going to start noticing this gradual fading away. There's going to be certain situations that you were once in where you would get really strong feelings, and you're going to notice that you don't experience those anymore, that the mind is quite peaceful and quite joyful in that same situation. He's talking about this freedom from strong feelings, because not only do you experience the fading away, but eventually you get this freedom where the mind no longer has to be bound up in the stress and anxiety. And then through freedom of strong feelings, the mind is liberated. It's free. When your mind is angry and frustrated, it's not free, because it's only a matter of time before somebody says something that you disagree with, and now you get angry and frustrated. You're not free. Your mind's bound up into that anger and frustration. It's your own craving that's producing that feeling. The mind is not free. It's like chained down to this world. So by the time you get freedom from these strong feelings, your mind is liberated. It's free. It has this freedom. That's the enlightened mind. When the mind is liberated, there comes the knowledge it's liberated. What he means by this is that when you get to enlightenment, you'll know that your mind is enlightened. You're not going to just stumble into enlightenment and accidentally get to enlightenment. It's not going to happen that way. There's going to be concerted effort, long-term sustainable determination, dedication, and diligence, which is going to lead to this enlightened mental state. And you will know that your mind's enlightened because it'll be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You don't have any anger. You don't have any frustration, any irritation. You'll know that your mind is enlightened. You won't go around bragging about it and telling people that's not what an enlightened being does. If anybody ever does that, you can be sure that they're not enlightened, right? As soon as people start bragging about they're enlightened, that's the arrogance, that's the ego. But you'll know within your own mind that your mind is enlightened. But I suggest to you to never convince yourself that you're actually enlightened, because you can go like 2, 3, 4, even 6 months with no discontentedness whatsoever. In that third stage of enlightenment, because there's 4 stages, and the mind's actually enlightened when you're in the 4th stage of enlightenment. In the 3rd stage of enlightenment, you can actually go a good 6 months without any discontentedness. And if you convince yourself you're enlightened, when you experience a little bit of discontentedness, like maybe 30 seconds or a minute, you'll miss it. You won't see it because you'll think game is over and you'll just ignore it and avoid it. Right? So if you convince yourself that you're enlightened, you can also become arrogant and egotistical. And if that's the case, you're not enlightened. You can become complacent, where you're not looking over your mind and watching over your mind as diligently as you once were. So by never convincing yourself you're enlightened, you can just create this life of always cultivating wisdom, growing and developing. Because once you cultivate all the wisdom you need to get to enlightenment, it's not like game's over. It's not like you crossed the finish line, right? It's like you're still living life, right? All that wisdom that you've cultivated has led to the very best thing, which is the elimination of discontentedness. But now you've got all the rest of this life to enjoy, right? There's maybe other things that you would like to cultivate wisdom about, not just the path to enlightenment, but maybe there's other things you would like to cultivate wisdom about. And now with your mind performing optimally, you're well suited to be able to do that. So it's best to never convince yourself that you're enlightened and just have a lifelong journey of the cultivation of wisdom, not just about the path to enlightenment, but other aspects of life too. And then the Buddha says he understands destroyed is birth, because by the time you get to enlightenment, you're not going to experience rebirth over and over and over again. The holy life has been lived, meaning you've completely purified your mind in this life, that this life has been a very holy life. There might have been things in your past that you did that were unwise, right? Every single person has experienced that. You've lied. Maybe you've stolen from people. Maybe you've cheated people. Maybe you've done other things. Maybe you've had sexual misconduct. Maybe you've done other things like this. It's okay. That's all in the past. But by the time you've gotten onto the path and now you purify your mind, you will have lived an extended period of time as an individual who's led this holy life or this pure life. What had to be done has been done, meaning you've trained your mind. You did what you had to do. You weren't complacent. You've completed all the work. You've done all that work on your mind. It's done, right? The Buddha describes this as beyond training. Someone who's gotten to enlightenment, they're beyond training. They no longer need any training of their mind because they're beyond that. They've fully and completely trained their mind. It's still wise to continue to cultivate wisdom, but you don't need to cultivate any more wisdom about the path to enlightenment. You've achieved what's called final knowledge, that you fully understand the entire path to enlightenment. And you can talk about it with ease, inside and out. This is called final knowledge, because what had to be done has been done. You've done the training, the learning, the growing, the developing, the becoming a better and better person. There is no more for this state of existence, meaning you're no longer going to be coming back over and over and over and over and over and over again. Even the cycle of rebirth is something that can be independently verified. You might not have that wisdom right now, but even the cycle of rebirth is not something that you believe in. you don't believe in anything with the teachings of the Buddha. You can independently verify this cycle of rebirth. In volume 11, chapter 105, that's where I put 17 different criteria of how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. So that might be something that you decide to look at some point, but it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason, because it's not something you usually learn about right up front. Right? So then the Buddha is saying, okay, this is the way to actually get to enlightenment, is you need to understand these three universal truths. And those are usually the first three things that you learn in your journey to enlightenment. So any questions here that you guys have? Yes, sir. If you could get a microphone. By the way, is that a translator or is that a camera? What is that? I was just curious. Oh, is it? Yeah, you're welcome to record. I was just curious. I hadn't seen one. It's a camera? Yeah.
I have many questions come here. Just before you think about the relationship with a friend, with your family, I think this is under control. Yeah, so you can exchange. Maybe you can exchange your mind. Maybe it's the raining will stop. Okay, but I have important things. I lose control. You know, I'm afraid of bad play. So I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why you're losing control is because you don't have control.
Yeah.
Your mind's not disciplined. It hasn't been trained.
Yeah.
But once you train your mind, it'll be well disciplined and then you can control it. Right now, you can't control it. It's got these cravings, desires, attachments. It's got all these pollutions that the Buddha discovered. But by training your mind, you'll have complete control over the mind at that point. But right now, that's not the case.
Yeah, that's let me say, maybe to think about. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Amen has a question too.
Thank you, teacher. Yeah. Do you think that Buddha here is asking us to be the observer? I can't quite understand. I mean, the non-self and the six senses. If I'm not that, later on today, something's going to decide I will eat this food because it's pleasant instead of this food, which I don't find tasteful, or I might listen to music which I find pleasing as opposed to listening to something I don't. So am I just observing this? Am I? Because what's making that decision? What's deciding? Or laughter humor is even more complicated because that's completely spontaneous. I have no decision when I laugh and when I don't. But there's something that does that. It's
okay. So there is the body and there is the mind. These are two different things. And the combination of these two things is what we refer to as the person, right? So the Buddha isn't telling you what you should or shouldn't do. He's helping you to understand true reality, that there are these two things, the body and the mind, and then the combination of these things is the person. The mind, based on the example that you just gave, the mind is making those decisions because those decisions that you just said, those are based in craving, desire, attachment. That I like this music, so I want to listen to this music, and I don't want to listen to this music. I like this food, and I want to eat this food, and I don't want to eat this food. That's not what you would ultimately like to be able to get to. You would like to be able to listen to any music and be completely comfortable and at ease with that. You would like to be able to eat any food and be completely comfortable and at ease with that. But if you keep favoring and opposing, or you keep drawing in the agreeable and pushing away the disagreeable, you'll never get to that. So the mind's going to want to do that. The mind's going to want to grab on to the agreeable things, and it's going to want to push away the disagreeable things. That's what the mind's going to want to do. But the person needs to say, hey, I see what you're doing there, and I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you grab onto things that you like and push away the things you don't like. I'm going to expose you to the things that you don't like and train you to be comfortable in these situations. And these things that you really like over here and you're holding on to really tightly, I'm going to train you to let those things go. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I think you've heard this one before. Say you have a certain restaurant that you go to and they have this amazing chocolate cake. And every time you go in, you order this chocolate cake and you're so happy and you're so excited with this chocolate cake, right? And you get all these pleasant feelings. Well, now maybe you come back the next week and they don't have your chocolate cake, and you're frustrated, you're annoyed, you're agitated. You can see your mind's attached to this, right? Because you're happy when they got it, you're not happy when they don't have it. And because this restaurant's chocolate cake is impermanent, that means as long as you allow your mind to be attached to it, you can't be permanently happy, right? So what you do when you observe those kinds of things is you train your mind to let go of this chocolate cake, that you train it to go 2, 3, 4, 5 months without eating this chocolate cake. And you can go to the restaurant, you can order other foods, but you choose not to order your chocolate cake. Right? And now when you can be just as happy going to this restaurant and just as content with the chocolate cake or as without the chocolate cake, you know that your mind is let go. But now let's just say there's something over here. I like to use the example of durian because I used to not like durian. Some people like it, some people don't, right? I think it smells like poop. I think it has the consistency of poop, but other people think otherwise. At this point, I can eat it, but in the past, I couldn't, right? So now there's this fruit durian that you don't like, and you're repulsed by it, and you push it away. You're going to need to bring that in. You're going to need to start eating it and train your mind to be comfortable and see this food as just something to nourish the body. So as long as you're holding on to this cake and you're pushing away the durian, you can't be happy in all situations. So you need to train your mind to let this go, and now to bring this in and start eating it and being comfortable with that. Once your mind has done that and has been transformed, now you'll just end up choosing to have your chocolate cake. Sometimes you'll get it and it'll be like, great, this tastes really good. Sometimes you'll go there and they'll be out of stock of your chocolate cake and you'll be completely at ease. You won't be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. This durian over here, you'll be able to eat it and enjoy it and be like, wow, this is really good, or, this is interesting taste, or whatever you think, but you won't be repulsed by it like I was in the past, right? So you would like to get rid of this favoring and opposing and just be comfortable in all these situations. But you'll never get to that if the person doesn't put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in. You've got to expose the mind to this. In fact, they have Western medicine, they call it exposure therapy. If you go to a therapist, they will do this. Like if you're afraid of heights, you'll never get rid of heights by staying on the ground. You'll never get rid of that fear of heights by staying on the ground. They teach you to go up into high buildings and expose the mind to these things, because what you're essentially doing is you're training your mind to let go of its attachment. So you're going to need to do that with all these sense bases: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, the mind itself. The mind is favoring and opposing constantly. It's constantly favoring and opposing. And the person needs to be wise enough to be like, I see what you're doing there, you dirty little devil, right? And now you expose it to the things that it doesn't want to be exposed to, and you let go of the things that it's holding on to. And this is where you'll get to liberation, because now you'll be free. You can be peaceful and joyful in all these situations, no matter what's going on around you. Yep. Yes, sir.
First part, the impermanent part.
Mm-hmm. I think that mic's having issues. The mic is impermanent. That one's working really well though.
The labels that we're given or we give ourselves are impermanent, right? Our relationship status, our socioeconomic status, they constantly changing. Mm-hmm. But those labels are guiding our daily activities, what I do every day, mm-hmm. Where do I work, what restaurants do I go to, all the things that we do every day. So without those labels, how do we define ourselves? Or do you think define our identity is important, or you think that's something is not important? But if it's not important, then how do I know who I am?
Yeah. So this is what the mind tries to do, is it's constantly trying to define things. And now it thinks that by defining it, I can grab onto it and I feel comfortable. But as soon as that definition changes, because it will change, now you're not comfortable anymore. So the mind, when it starts to learn about non-self, is like, well, if I'm not the body and I'm not the mind, then who am I? Right? Well, that's the mind still trying to grasp. It wants to hold on to something. If I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, tell me, what is it? What can I grab onto? Well, the Buddha is teaching you, don't grab onto any of these things, because as soon as you do, those things are going to change. And if you identify with this as who you are, when that thing changes, you'll feel lost and confused in the world. You'll be all shaken up. This is why people come to Thailand sometimes and they're in search of themselves. They'll be back in their home country and they'll say, I don't even know who I am anymore. I need to go on a journey, Mom, Dad. I need to go find myself. I don't even know who I am. I need to go find myself. I need to find my true self. Well, they're not going to find it here in Thailand because their true self doesn't exist. They might find new hobbies, new activities, new job, new activities, new whatever, but none of that is you. It's not who you are. But what someone will do is they'll come here, they'll grab onto those things. They'll go home, they'll say, Mom, I found myself. I know who I am again. Yay, I feel great. 3 years later, 5 years later, all that stuff has changed. I don't know who I am again. Right? So you need to get to the point where you're not trying to grab on to anything as who you are. And this can be a bit scary, right? It can be challenging for the mind to let go of these things because we've adopted this identity for so long. Ever since birth, we were given a label. I don't know what your label is, but my label was David, right? David. Right? This being is David. And now there's like a personality and a character and an image and all these other things that go along with that we adopt over time. And the idea of shedding all of that and letting it go, it can be fearful because the mind's not getting what it wants, which is to hold on to these things. So you need to expose the mind to this, where you train your mind to let these things go. And it's not just talking about it here. All we're doing is talking about it. But there are certain practices. This is why the Buddha shaved his hair, is to train his mind not to associate with this body as who he is. He can go out into the world and be completely comfortable with his hair before when it was long and then when it was short. That's why he also wore rag robes. So when he went out into the world, he wasn't trying to be perceived by others in a certain way. He was just wearing simple clothes so that his mind disassociated with these clothing as who he is as a person. So there's all these different practices that we do that people look and like, why do those Buddhist people shave their hair? Why do they wear those simple clothes? This is to help you realize non-self. These are practices to help you do that. But the mind's going to keep wanting to grab on into something, but you need to train it to not do that. And part of that is the intellectual learning and the reflection, but then ultimately you need to practice and put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in, which for some people, they choose to shave their hair, wear simple clothes and things like this. But you can get to enlightenment without shaving your hair. But for some people, it's a really big way to just push the mind forward and move it forward and get it to the point where it's encouraged to realize non-self. Does it make sense? Yeah, the mind's going to keep wanting to grab onto something. Okay. Let me see if we have any other questions here. Hello to everyone online. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just end class here because it's about 10:45 by thanking all of you guys. Thank you for being interested to learn the teachings of the Buddha. Thank you for your questions. What we typically do in the evening times is we study 10 chapters, but here in this class, I just study whatever we can get to. Today happened to be 2 chapters, but there's more here that is in this book. Like, for example, this next chapter is disassociation will lead to your welfare and peacefulness. This is the Buddha giving you more information about how to realize non-self, to disassociate with any of this as being who you are. And there's other teachings that he has. I encourage people to start with volume 1 in our group learning program or our foundational classes. That's the best way to start. I know you guys probably just were coming from meditation. You didn't even know what was necessarily happening today. If this class is something that you're interested in learning, wonderful. Pleased that you came. If this class is a little bit like, whoa, this is a little bit too much for me, understand that there's other classes like foundational programs that'll really help you. And if you'd like to come talk to me to get help and how to get plugged into those classes, I'm more than willing to help you. If you'd like to check our website, which is buddhadailywisdom.com, you'll be able to see those programs under our online learning section. Tomorrow is a great time to be able to come. If you'd like to come tomorrow, tomorrow. What we're going to do is students are going to interview me because it's the unofficial restart of the group learning program. And they're going to ask me a bunch of questions about my own personal life, past, present, maybe future. I don't know. So you guys are welcome to come and learn from all my mistakes, all the mistakes that I made in life, essentially. I'll teach you all the difficulties and struggles that I had and how I overcame those things. So if you'd like to come, that'll be tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we'll be doing it tomorrow evening. I'll do it from home and I'll live stream it as well. So thank you again for coming. I really appreciate your interest to learn, and perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Whatever you decide to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.